Guys, what's up? Welcome or welcome back to the channel. Now today we are continuing the series in which I'm going to show you my entire CD collection. And as I've stated in my first video, I'm not going to do it in one full video because that would take too long. I'm going to split it up into various different videos, each video for one letter of the alphabet. So I did a letter A a couple of weeks ago. So today we're going to tackle letter B. And if you guys are maybe watching this a year or 2 years from now, there will be a playlist that I will link in the description where you will find all the episodes of the series. So hopefully you can watch all of them from A to Z. Letter B will be less filled with artists compared to letter A, in which we had 30 artists. In letter B, we have only 15, but there are some really massive discographies in letter B and some of my favorite artists of all time. So it's a pretty exciting letter. And just to be clear, the way I alphabetize things is when I'm talking about an artist, for instance, Fiona Apple, I'm alphabetizing them according to their name. So F, not A. And when I'm going with a band that has the word the before the name of a band, I usually go with the first name of the band. So the Beatles goes into B. So, without further ado, let's get on with the video. So, first artist we got under B is the heavy power metal band from Finland, Battle Beast. And this is their second album, Battle Beast, and this is their third album, Unholy Savior. And these two came out in the early 2010s. Now, this is the era of the band when they had their original composer, Anthony Cabanin, I hope I'm pronouncing him correctly, in the band before he left and created Beast in Black. Yeah, and these two are some good heavy power metal albums. I like the vocalist, Nora. She is very good. She's got a very powerful voice in the style of Rob Halford, a female version of Rob Halford, let's say. So, Battle Beast, good band. Next up, we got the Beatles with their classic Sgt. Pepper's. And not a big fan of the Beatles in general, but I do like their later era stuff where they get more quirky and progressive and psychedelic. And yeah, I'm talking about albums like Sgt. Pepper's or the Magical Mystery Tour. But yeah, this is like, I'm someone who's very big into psychedelic and progressive rock music. So yeah, this album is definitely very, very good. Next up, we got the American metalcore band Beartooth, and this is their debut album released in 2014 called Disgusting, and I just saw them live at Wacken Open Air this year, and they were great, and I decided to check out their discography, and this is the album I really connected with the most out of their discography. It's a really good album, especially the song In Between is really, really good and catchy metalcore. So good band. So next up is the first big chunk of albums in this letter, in the letter B. And I'm talking about the mighty black death metal titans Behemoth. And I don't have their very, very early works, their very early black metal works. I'm not a big fan of those. But I have almost all their albums from 1999 Satanica. And this is the album in which they changed a little bit their sound, going towards a more death metal approach, at the same time incorporating still their black metal roots. And this is a very good album. Decade-Otherian Man is one of the best Behemoth songs ever. And then we got Thelema 6, and this is a slight step down to me, but it's got some bangers too. Then we've got the album which I can't ever pronounce, sorry guys, I can never pronounce this one. But yeah, this one is a step up, another great album. But the best comes now, because with these next 4 albums, Behemoth really delivered some masterpieces. And here, with the next 3 especially, they're delving deep into a straightforward, death metal sound, you know, without any black metal incorporations. This is pure brutal death metal, and this is a classic of their discography. Demigod, a classic death metal album of the 2000s, amazing record. And when we got the also amazing, the Apostasy, and then Evangelion, which I think is one of the best produced albums, especially in extreme metal. And then we got what I think is their masterpiece, The Satanist, which came out in 2014. It has this beautiful booklet, and to me, this is one of the best, not just extreme metal albums, but metal albums of the 2010s. It's the album, probably their magnum opus to me. Now, I don't have their next album, I Love You at Your Darkest, because I think that's way too cheesy, way too pompous. I never liked that, never liked the songs. But I think that they did a pretty good return to form with their album Opus Contra Naturam, released, I think it was in 2022. And this is, of course, not as good as The Satanist, but it's got some bangers. I love The Deathless Sun. I love Off to War. I love Thy Becoming Eternal is such a fantastic track. And I also saw them at least twice in the tour of this album. So, pretty good return to form by Behemoth. Great band. Next up is the technical death metal band from Canada, Beyond Creation, with their first album, The Aura, that came out in 2011. And guys, if you like technical death metal, check out this album. I think the bassist here uses a fretless bass, which is pretty unique. Incredible compositions, incredible technicality. Very good album. Next up, we got Between the Buried and Me, and I'm not like a huge fan of this band in terms of their whole discography. And it's weird because I love progressive metal, I love progressive death metal, I love death metal. This band never clicked totally for me, but this album is really good. I mean, just the songs Ants in the Sky is a total masterpiece. Of a song White Walls at the end. This is really good and my favorite from them, so I gotta have it. Now, next up, changing completely the genre, we got a female symphonic metal band from Germany, and this is the band Beyond the Black, led by the singer Jennifer Haben, and she's got an amazing voice. Her voice is one of the things that drives me to this band, and also the capability of creating such beautiful melodies. This is their debut album, Songs of Love and Death. I don't have their second album because I never really liked it. This is their third album, Heart of the Hurricane. And then we got Horizons, and then their latest album that came out in 2023, and this is to me one of their best albums. They combine symphonic metal with, some more classical, like power metal, with some folk, amazing vocals. Very good band. If you like symphonic metal, to me, this is one of the best bands in the genre right now. Next up is the debut album from Billie Eilish from 2018, When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And this is a very fascinating record to me. It's very dark, very brooding, but also very minimalistic and pulled back. It's got a fantastic atmosphere to it. I love Billie's mumbled vocals, and when she sings, she does sing really, really well. I love her voice. Also, I love the trap beats and the electronic infused parts that add a little bit more weight to the record. Fantastic album. Okay, next up is one of my favorite bands of all time, and this is the Canadian dark wave / synthwave / rock band, The Birthday Massacre, and these guys combine some amazing synth passages with some rockier elements. We got a great vocalist in Chibi, and I found out about this band in a very old school way because I was flipping through the CDs in a record shop, and I found out this one, with this gorgeous artwork, and I was absolutely awestruck when I saw this artwork. And I said to me, okay, I know this band's name, but I've never actually listened to them. From the logo, it seems to me like an emo or something band or something in that vein. But I told myself, okay, I'm gonna go back home. I don't know anything about this band, and I'm gonna listen to this band on Spotify. And so I did, and I listened to the song Happy Birthday, and yet that was the beginning of my fandom, the Birthday Massacre fandom. So I got all of their studio albums. This is their first one, Nothing and Nowhere, from 2002. Some of these songs have been re-recorded for their second album, which is Violet, 2005. Then we got Walking with Strangers in 2007, probably their most acclaimed album. Pins and Needles, 2010. Then we got the EP Imaginary Monsters. Then we got Hide and Seek, another very gorgeous album of 2012. And this is, for me, the end of their golden era with their album Superstitious in 2014. After this, they become a little bit more melancholic and tend to rely more on the synth passages compared to having a mixture of both. And to me, their albums dip a little bit in quality, although I still like, the other three albums they made. Under Your Spell, right? 2016. This has some gorgeous songs like The Opener One, for instance. Diamonds, 2020, has one of my favorite The Birthday Massacre songs with The Sky Will Turn. Fascinating. And then we got their last album, Fascination, which still has to grow on me quite a little bit. Yeah, I'm not as keen on these last three albums compared to their earlier discography, but still The Birthday Massacre is one of my favorite bands. And definitely, if you're a fan of this band, expect a ranking at some point. So please be sure to subscribe to the channel because we will have a ranking and I will talk more about The Birthday Massacre. Okay, next up we got Blackmore's Night with Shadow of a Moon, and this is a project from former Deep Purple guitarist Richie Blackmore and his wife Candice Knight, and it's a folk album through and through, and it's pretty cool. She has some really good vocals. I especially love the title track, Shadow of a Moon. Yeah, pretty good. I'm not a fan of their catalog as a whole, but this album is good. And next up, we have another massive discography, and we have legendary Black Sabbath that needs no introduction. Now, Black Sabbath has so many albums, and I don't have them all. I only have my favorites or the ones that I consider to be really good. And that is, of course, the classic Ozzy era, starting with the first Black Sabbath album. Then we got Paranoid, Master of Reality, Volume 4, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, Technical Ecstasy, which is really underrated to me. This is another incredible album with one of my favorite songs on it, Dirty Woman. And then we got Never Say Die, which I only got to complete the classic Ozzy era collection because this isn't really a great album. It has some okay songs, but nothing compared to the others. And, then we have a vocalist change in Ronnie James Dio, but in terms of quality, nothing changes because these two albums are some of the best classic heavy metal albums ever released. Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules. Two incredible albums, Heaven and Hell especially. And yet, to me, Black Sabbath really ends up in here in 1981 after the release of Mob Rules. But I do have two other records from them that I think are pretty good. Headless Cross. This is from 1989 with Tony Martin on vocals. Yeah, and this is another more heavy metal album in the vein of Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. And it's pretty good. And then, of course, I love Ronnie James Dio, so I gotta have the other albums that they made with Ronnie James Dio in 1992, The Humanizer. Although this is not as good, nowhere near as good as the Mob Rules or Heaven and Hell. It's heavier, it's more abrasive, more in your face, but the compositions are not up to the same levels as, the other two classic albums with Ronnie James Dio. But I do like songs like for example. And on the whole, it's pretty good. And yeah, this is for me where my interest in Black Sabbath ends. I'm not into the other albums they made, like Forbidden or Cross Purposes or whatever. Okay, next up is officially the biggest collection in the letter B, and this is the power metal gods from Germany, Blind Guardian, and this is one of the bands that introduced me to power metal, or actually the band that introduced me to power metal, and still is my favorite power metal band. I got all their discography plus live albums, lots of stuff, starting from Battalions of Fear, their first album. Then we got Follow the Blind, their second album, and these two are like straight up speed metal albums. And then we got Tales from the Twilight World, and this starts to me the golden era of Blind Guardian, which goes from this album to A Night at the Opera. So we have Tales from the Twilight World, then we got Somewhere Far Beyond, then we got Tokyo Tales, or live Tokyo Tales, and then we got my favorite Blind Guardian album, Imaginations from the Other Side. Then we got their huge concept album, Nightfall in Middle Earth. And then I got this is the single for And Then There Was Silence from their album A Night at the Opera. And this is probably my favorite song ever from Blind Guardian. And this album to me closes their golden era. And this is A Night at the Opera. Fantastic, fantastic album. It's more symphonic, more pompous, but gorgeous compositions. And I have this copy signed when I went to Wacken. I believe it was 2016. Blind Guardian were headlining. And yeah, I got the chance to let them sign this CD that I brought with me. So pretty cool to have, as you can see the signatures here. Then we got the live album from 2003. And then A Twist in the Myth, which was actually the first album, the first new release by Blind Guardian that I bought as a fan, as I got into the band around 2004. And I saw them for the first time in this tour, actually, the Twist in the Myth tour in 2006. So yeah, but from here the quality start dipping a little bit. At the Edge of Time is another pretty good album, but it's nothing. They're becoming more and more symphonic as they go along, and to me the quality is not even as close as their 90s records and early 2000s records. Yeah, so that was At the Edge of Time. Then we got Beyond the Red Mirror. Then we got then we got their last album, which is The God Machine, which is a return to a more speed power metal and straightforward approach. And yeah, not one of my favorite, definitely. Okay, and to wrap up my Blind Guardian collection, I have the Blind Guardian Twilight Orchestra, and this is their orchestral album. It took so many years for them to make this album. It was like in the making for something like 20 years. I remember when I discovered the band in 2004, like they were already talking about making this album, and then they released it I think it was 2021 or 2019. So, I mean, it was almost 20 years in the making. And it's, yeah, totally orchestral, totally symphonic with Hansi singing over it. It's okay, but it's a bit long and sprawling and not their best. Okay, time to change genre completely, and we're off to my favorite pop punk band of all time. And as much as I love Green Day of the Offspring, Sum 41, you know, Blink-182 has always been my favorite ever since I was a teenager, and I have all their discography. I don't have Cheshire Cat because I think that album has a really, really crappy production. Tom really doesn't know how to sing on that record. I'm not particularly a fan of the songs either, except for maybe Carousel. So Blink for me starts with Dude Ranch in 1997, and this got some bangers like, you know, Josie and Damn It. Then, of course, we got the seminal Enema of a State, and this is probably the best pop punk record of all time. Then we got the hilarious live album Mark, Tom, and Travis Show. And yeah, their follow-up to Enema of a State, the equally great, or almost equally great, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And then we got the self-titled, which was the era in which I discovered Blink, and I was really a fan of Blink. So this album really holds a special place in my heart. It's one of their best albums too, in which I started experimenting in a little bit of different directions and yeah, not sticking totally to the pop punk formula. Yeah, and then we got the split with Tom. Then Tom got back in the band, and they released Neighborhoods. And this is an underrated album. It's quite a bit different from the early Blink. It's got that more Angels and Airways infused, like sound in it. But it's still really good. There are some fantastic songs like "Ghost of a Dance Floor." The first song is amazing. But yeah, I really like it. Then we got the Matsky by years, and which I think is also very underappreciated, especially this album, California. This is pretty good, and it's Blink going back to their original pop punk sound. And man, there are some incredible songs here. Yeah, this is Blink being a little bit more mature, less corny, but songs like Left Alone or Rabbit Hole are amazing. Then She's Out of Her Mind has more of that up tempo, fun Blink sound. Yeah, then we got the album 9. This is more synth poppy oriented, and it's probably my least favorite of their discography aside from Cheshire Cat, but it's still got some great songs, especially like the singles, like Dark Side is fantastic. Yeah, but overall, Matsky Bayer is very good. And then we got the reunion with Tom, and they came out with this banger of an album. This was in my top 20 favorite albums of last year. I honestly prefer the cover they have on the Spotify version. Like this cover here is not very original to me. It's unimaginative, like with her face, and it's all blue, and it reminds me too much of like the self-titled, even though the color scheme is different. But I prefer like the Spotify cover, also because it depicts more the like more serious uh, tone that this album has compared to their earlier works, right? So Blink, great band. Hey, next up is the progressive black metal legends Borknagar from Norway, and this band has featured many really renowned musicians in the black metal scene, like Garm from Ulver. It's still got ICS, Vortex, Ex Dimo Borger, and Arcturus in the lineup. And I mean, yeah, these guys have come up with some incredible works. I don't have their first album, which is a straight black metal album. I don't really like the production that much. I prefer when they start becoming more of a fusion of progressive and black metal, starting with her second album, which is an amazing pagan black metal album with some folky elements. The Olden Domain, right, released in 97, I believe. This is a great one. And then, yeah, the Archaic Course, amazing, with Vortex on vocals. Quintessence, another fantastic one, with probably their best song ever, Colossus. And this is, to me, the peak of their early works. And this is the album Empiricism. And I actually discovered Borknagar with the first song, The Genuine Pulse. I remember listening to that song on YouTube and thinking that was one of the most incredible black metal songs I had ever heard in my life. And I just bought the CD off of that one, and I discovered Borknagar in that way. And it was probably around 2012 or something. Then I don't have their middle part of their catalog, which is, I think takes a little bit of a dip in quality. But I do have Erd, which I think is probably my favorite Borknagar album ever. This album is just a masterpiece. And then we have, of course, Winter Thrice, another great album. And then we have True North, which is the first album without Vintersorg on vocals, but still very good. It's got Up North, which is such an incredible song with ICS Vortex on vocals. And then we have their latest album, which just came out like literally a week ago. And it's very, very good. It's very, very good. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Borknagar album, but still very good. Okay, to wrap things up and to end this letter B, we got the indie all-female rock band boygenius, and girls, I discovered them by watching the Grammys because apparently they won a bunch of Grammys, I think 3 this year, for best alternative performance, best rock performance, or something like that. But this is a gorgeous, gorgeous album. Very chill, very laid back. It's like sitting on a beach with a gust of wind blowing in your face. Beautiful instrumentation, very lush instrumentation. Um, yeah, this is a really good record, and sometimes you discover some pretty cool music by watching the Grammys. That isn't usually the case, but this year I was lucky. I love the song Not Strong Enough. I think it was a real highlight of this record. But yeah, I'm gonna continue to check out this band because and see what they will deliver in the future because this record really impressed me. And so we've reached the end of the video. I hope you liked it. Please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in, learning more about my discography. I will continue the journey in the next videos. I linked a playlist where you can find all the episodes in the description box. And so without further ado, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.